Hey, and welcome back to County Talk. This is a very special episode for you. We have two outgoing commissioners, and we thought we would talk about our time as a board and sort of their legacy. And as you know, I'm Sue Hansen. I'm one of your three elected county commissioners, and ironically, I'm here with the other two county commissioners. So, County Talk is designed to sort of let you know a little bit more about what's going on in the county, the nitty gritty. So, we're trying to educate you on everything county. And you can go to our website and you can download and look at some of the YouTube videos if you want to learn more about other aspects of the county. But today it's special for me because these two gentlemen I've been serving with for 6 years, and there's some bittersweet to say goodbye to you guys and sort of have this conversation. I mean, they're men, so we rarely sit down like this and even have this kind of a conversation.
True.
Would you say that's true? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's important for people to hear sort of why you got in and what you wanted to accomplish, and then maybe what we've kind of done together. Because there's been some really fun times. There's been some pretty difficult times. Going through some of the land use hearings that we have. They can be stressful. You have to stay on your toes to make sure you don't do anything wrong. But so let's start off with the beginning and talk a little bit about Keith. I'm gonna ask you. You guys ran in 2016, and so you've been here. You were here about 2 years before. Roughly, right. Yeah. So, and the circumstances that brought me in early were a little bit unusual when somebody resigned sooner than expected. But everybody sort of. I think everybody starts being a county commissioner with some goals in mind and some thoughts on how they can do things differently. What motivated you? And then we'll talk to Roger here in a second. But
the things that motivated me to think about becoming a county commissioner was I knew it was going to be a tough job to start off with. I looked into it pretty closely to see what it would entail. Mm-hmm. And it was very eye-opening what it entails to be a county commissioner. But one of the things that I wanted to see done was to increase and make better the community partnerships, specifically the one with the city of Montrose and the county of Montrose. I came from the Montrose Police Department, and before I came in, the relationship wasn't all that great.
Right. I remember.
I wanted to make sure, that we could build that relationship again and make it where the city and county work together, because we're the two biggest entities.
Yeah, and what's the benefit of the city and the county working better together? I mean, there's tons of them. What are some of the benefits that you saw, Roger, as the city and the county could work closer together?
Well, I think it once we started collaborating and working together, we were able to solve a lot of our issues as far as the dispatch center, this Veterans Memorial that's coming up. Mm-hmm. That's really big on.
So let's hold that one, because that's kind of like the secret sauce.
It's like these collaborations with the city, mm-hmm. and being able to reach out to the city, their road and bridge, mm-hmm. The city street crews, our road and bridge, mm-hmm. And working together. And actually working as a community and being able to just have this cordial working relationship.
Well, we're too small to be not to be at odds, right? And there's so many shared advantages. There's advantages to sharing some road. I think we've done some gravel exchanges. The dispatch center is notable. That was kind of when I first came on too, and I remember the emotions were high, mm-hmm. and it was costly to have two dispatch centers. So when we brought those together, there was a savings, and I know the county stepped up and put some money into that so that could happen. And is there the benefit to public service advantage?
And one of the biggest reasons I wanted to see those dispatch centers come back together was officer safety on the street. Mm-hmm. Because perfect example would have been, let's say a call came into the Montrose PD's dispatch center at the time, but it was for a call in the county. What kind of delay is there getting that call then to the correct people? Mm-hmm. Is there a 1 minute delay, a 30-second delay? It might mean an officer's life. And that was one of the things that really bothered me when we had two dispatch centers.
There were some delays in the service.
There were some delays in the service, and mm-hmm. It's just the way it is when you have two different mm-hmm. entities.
Well, and there is an advantage to having commissioners come with certain skill sets and certain backgrounds. And your law enforcement has certainly been informed a lot of our decisions regarding public safety and things like that. It's been, for me, I think that has been a great learning curve, that having someone that has that level of expertise. So you came in to improve partnerships. Any other reasons why you have a list of things to do? Because I don't know. I didn't realize what I was doing until I got in here. And I'm like, oh my God, I have to do that. It's like, wait,
No, that was primarily the biggest thing. So one of the things I wanted to see is a better partner relationship between the county and the hospital. It was very strained relationships, even an ongoing lawsuit. And that was another thing I wanted to look into and see if we could get that.
Right. And these are our
shut
friends
down.
and neighbors. And I tell people all the time, I mean, I've been here, I don't know how long, since 87 with some time off for good behavior in Philadelphia, but basically on the Western Slope. And, we have to work together. I mean, these are our neighbors, and these are people that we've known for all our lives. And the two of you in particular, you grew up in the West End, and you've grown up here. You know everybody. He's related to half the dang people. So, I mean, you have to kind of check it through the Caddy family tree, and then see who's related to whom.
No, that's true to a certain extent. My family's been in the Valley since the 1800s.
Right, right. So yeah. And so, Roger, let's switch to you. What were your thoughts about?
The big motivator for me was some of our infrastructure. And I got to tell you, we've been a great team. When we came in, we all had these different skill sets. Commissioner Caddy being law enforcement, me being an engineer coming in, road and bridge, but had studied a lot on structures and stuff like that. And then you come in with your human health and services and nursing and those types of things. We were really, it made for a really good team.
Yeah.
And we all covered different bases, but we all worked together.
Yeah, I really, during land use hearings, really relied heavily on your expertise and, some of the things that you knew that I would, never even dawned on me.
Yeah.
So for me, it's been kind of an education, learning from each of you and very beneficial. And I think that's what, when you think about, when you come into office, I just came in to serve. I didn't even have an agenda. And I think it was more that I felt like I had a servant's heart. And so if you come in with a servant's heart, you're going to do whatever you can to help the community and better the people. So I didn't have a specific, this is what they're doing wrong, and so I need to come in and fix that. So that's a little different. Yeah. You came in at a little different era, and I think each board that leaves is going to get criticized by the next board, right? Because they shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Yep.
But what I'm going to try to do is make sure that I judge people based on, because you take action on some things, and we have advantage of having all the information. And sometimes everybody doesn't have every single piece of information that we do. But I think that's been a strength that we are coming at it from so many different angles in our expertise. So your first couple of years in office, I mean, I know it was a struggle even getting elected, right? I mean, who likes to run for election? I mean, it's the worst, isn't it?
It was a tough campaign for me. Keith killed it right off the bat. So
it worked out good for me. Let's just put it that way.
Right, but so then I mean, we've talked about board dynamics before. But when you come together with people that you don't know what their values are, you don't know what their trust level is, you don't know what, how can I rely on this person? Because we're making some decisions that are costly in many cases, affect lives. And so I take it very seriously. I know you do too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you first came in, I mean, what some of our biggest challenges, what would you say some of our top challenges were? We had the dispatch center, we had the hospital, because we ended up transferring the hospital to the hospital. So we basically solved that right off the bat, right?
It was solved easily.
Yeah.
Actually.
It took a few years, if you remember right.
Yes, it did.
And it was costing the county a lot of money too.
Right. Well, it started, before we even got here, right? Because there was a number of years of some of the lawsuits, and we don't want to get into the nitty gritty of those. But the question became: is the hospital better by transferring the ownership to the hospital? Period. Or is it better to have the county run it? So I agree.
Getting us out of their way.
Right. Or we wouldn't have done it if it wasn't a good decision, right?
Yeah. And I guess one of the biggest reasons that really makes it come clear to me is when they opened up their out of what is it, the
Cedar Point.
Cedar Point, yeah.
Yes. Or no, not Cedar Point.
Down by
down by
Oxford.
Oxbow.
Yeah. Oxbow. Yeah. God grief. Do we live here? We don't even know the name.
Their outpatient unit.
Yes.
Well, and one of the things that people don't really know about the hospital, or may not know the detail, especially new residents, is that by us stepping out, they were able to secure financing themselves without having to come to the county. And that was the big hindrance, is that they were always going to have to come through the Board of Hospital Trustees at the county. It's complicated. I mean, one of the things that I think is interesting is that people think, gosh, government's so boring. It's been anything but boring.
Yeah.
Right. So, and you mentioned, some of the first years we did, so you did a lot of shoring up of things. Morale changed. You were particularly interested in the culture at the county at the time. I remember that you were talking about that you felt like the employees, the morale was low.
Absolutely. My deceased wife, it was a county employee, and the morale was very low.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, it was a challenge. And that was one of the main motivators why I ran for county commissioner, because I knew it could be better.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew with Keith running that the two of us could make some positive changes in those early days. And then once you got on board, that just helped everything even more, because it just...
Well, we got prettier.
We did.
That is true. Roger and I are not very pretty.
I'm just kidding.
That was the thing.
But that's a fine looking board right there.
Yeah. The thing of it was, we had some really dilapidated buildings that were not comfortable to work in. They were hot. They were cold in the winter. They were dirty, and that's like our vote today on the new facility. My belief was and is that our employees deserve better. We have an outstanding staff. I mean, the people that work for Montrose County, I could not be more proud of.
Yep.
And that was my big motivator.
Well,
for
the county,
in.
It's the county commissioners. People forget that we're really supposed to be policy and budget. We're not supposed to manage the staff. We're not supposed to be, sweeping the streets after the parade. What we're supposed to be doing is developing policy and making those decisions. But I wanted to switch for a second because, Keith, one of my fond memories, and I wouldn't say maybe it was a positive, but we were on the Bull Draw fire, and that was we had to declare an emergency, and we had some procedures that I'd never been involved in. We were over in the West End. I think that burned a total of 28,000 acres.
Yeah, it was a pretty good sized fire.
Yeah.
Do you think that the common citizen realizes the depth of things that a county commissioner has to deal with? If you start listing everything that we've done at every decision,
every day is a new day around here. You talk about so many different things and working with so many different things. It's like declaring an emergency on the Bull Draw fire in that area, working with the state and the federal government, and learning that process as you go. Luckily, I came in with some emergency management stuff from the police department, so I had a good base to work off of, but definitely not in a fire.
Right.
And so every day is a new day, and you're learning something new every day. And hopefully, with the new commissioners coming in, they'll understand that you just can't come in with your eyes blinded and shut and just looking at one or two things. It's a whole new world when you walk into this office.
I think that's wise. I think that coming in with preset ideas of what you think is happening in the county is erroneous, because I think people ought to be, just be silent until they learn, because there's so much between all the statutory requirements and the emergency declarations. I mean, there's a lot of procedures and processes that we really have to learn. Was that something? I mean, you worked for CDOT, so you were used to rules and procedures, but how was that for you coming in with all this?
It was an eye opener for me, because you have all these grandiose ideas of things that you can come in and do. And then you find out your attorney says, "Oh, we can't do that because there's a state statute," or "We have these policies. You got to change the policies." Yeah. And then you got to work. You got to work together to overcome that. And some of this stuff, we even worked at the state level to change statutes. So you come in with this big idea of what you can do, and then you find out. No, you're really limited to state statute, and you can be held personally liable if you do not follow that state statute, and lawsuits are alive and well in this. Well,
our society is
in
very
our society.
Litigious. Yeah, I have to throw a John Washbush thing in here, because we were in my office, and I was like, you know what we could do. Let's do this. And I had all these ideas, and he goes, "This is not the Google campus."
It's true.
And I wrote it on my whiteboard because I thought I needed to remind myself that you just can't go off the rail and do whatever the heck you want. And then that was when I realized that you're so statutorily guided that you have to mind your P's and Q's, and you can't just be going off the rail. So I think that's going to be eye-opening for somebody that's new to the county. Yeah. I think when you've had some county experience, it's going to be a little different than that. But so I brought up Bull Draw because I'm like, golly, the commissioners do that too. And
Mhm.
so ever since then, it's like I just try to keep a running list of all the things that the county commissioners are responsible for. We're the Board of Health. So I'm going to have to throw in the big, we had a pandemic, right, during our term. So, and that took almost 2 years to sort of work through. That was a very challenging time.
Very
Absolutely.
challenging for everybody
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
and
do
for
you,
our citizens.
yeah. I mean, and I think just, and now when you look back on it, it's kind of like you not even just a faint memory.
Yes.
Isn't that weird? So I don't really want to spend much time on the pandemic, but I felt like just a word from you, Roger, how you felt like the county handled the pandemic.
Well, I think we did an outstanding job, and I got to thank Dr. Joe Andragna for coming in and the leadership that he provided, because without that, we would have been sunk.
Mhm.
It was so complicated and so many unknowns that it would have been impossible for us to have managed that the way we did.
Mhm.
And working our way clear through it. I think trying to find that balance with some of the information that was out there, because in my mind, there was a lot of misinformation and stuff that was going on,
Mhm.
but we had to work through that. And thank God we had our attorneys and Dr. Joe having the weekly briefings and all those things that were just, that's getting that information out there to the public. We weren't right 100% of the
Mhm.
time,
Mhm.
but at least we were honest enough to admit and say we didn't know,
Mhm.
or we made a mistake or whatever.
Right.
And that's been in almost every instance. If we can do something, we will. If we can't, and there was a lot of upset public that we had to deal with on both sides.
Right.
There was a side that was just scared to death.
Yeah.
And then there was a side that just did not want to give up their freedom.
Well, and it was
freedoms.
kind of a blind
yeah.
leading the blind.
Yeah.
You couldn't draw on any previous experience or anything like that. But that sort of leads me into how important is integrity, because you mentioned that even when we're wrong, we admit it.
Yeah.
And we don't get everything right 100% of the time. Nobody does. But but it's that how important is integrity and honesty and just being open to the public as a commissioner.
I think as a commissioner coming out of law enforcement, you're in the public all the time. You're in the public eye. So you really got to measure your words and make sure that you're pretty, dead on what you're saying is correct to start off with. Sometimes you get it wrong. And if you do get it wrong, admit to it. But don't just go, from the hip and start making accusations or statements that might come back to haunt you in the beginning, and maybe even create a bad environment for the whole county in general.
So, do you think that if everybody aligns on their values, integrity, honesty, honor, those things, you can pretty much solve anything if you have those basic things, respect. I mean, I often talk to people about how Roger and I, we've had our dust-ups, right? But I know that your heart is there. And so it always made that okay, because I always felt like you had that level of the value system. So, but as you said today in the board meeting, I don't know why I did that, board meeting, kind of add a little inflection there. But we don't always agree. And today, there is a perfect example. You deferred on something that we agreed on, and 100% vote isn't always what's going to happen. It's nice when we do, because we know we're all on the same page.
Just one thing to that. Usually, because we're all on the same page on most of the items, is because of our staff.
Mm-hmm.
They have laid it out. They have done the work. Our legal department has vetted it, and we know that it's the right thing to do. Right.
I'm not talking about so much in terms of like a land use where they've laid out the rules. I'm talking about that if I know you're doing things for the right reasons, it's easier for me to either disagree with you, but I still respect you.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where, we've seen commissioners across the state that don't have that relationship.
Yeah, we never split up.
Yeah.
No. And I'm always proud of that. We always had our board together, and that wasn't the case. If you remember right, it was not the case. And respect is everything, and honesty is everything. If we make a mistake, we admit it, we apologize.
Yep,
those are important things.
Yep,
and that's all goes back to that integrity piece.
Sure, it does. And I think that because we're making important policy decisions for the community in our county, that we have to be that way. I mean, you know, we have to be and be available to public, which we've always been available to the public. I know that when you two came in, you insisted on having what we called this transparency software, which was, you know, open financial books.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
And yet, I mean, you know, I know it sounds crazy, but it's hard to capture everything, every decision, everything we've done. For you over the 8 years and for me over the 6 years, it's really difficult. And in some cases, I wish we just, you know, made notes about everything we did. But that transparency software changed the nature of how people saw the county. Prior to that, we had a lot of people that were questioning, wondering about how monies were expended.
Yeah.
And then when you put that in, what happened? I mean, I know that originally at the board meetings, there were a lot of people complaining about things, but once you put that in, it changed.
True. Well, I think it built trust with the community in general. In other words, they can see what we're doing. I would hazard to guess most people never went and looked at it, but they knew it was there if they wanted to. And I think that's important to build that trust with the population, the base of the citizens.
Yeah, and I used to tell people, just go and see what there's nothing on my credit card. I hardly use it, but yeah, go ahead. You can see.
I think one of the big defining moments, there was a gentleman by the name of Roger Brown.
Yeah,
if you remember Roger, and he's since
Nice
passed. And I respected him. You know, they really, some people just did not want him to speak at the board meetings, but I respected him because he was watching our county finances. And we need advocates like that. We need people that are going to stand up and say, wait a minute, something don't look right.
Right.
And when we put that piece in, he appreciated that. And I always respected the man for that. And
and then I thought he kind of stopped coming to all the meetings because he didn't. You gave him the answer he needed it, right? So he wanted to know what was going on. He trusted you at that point, which I can't underscore that trust is so critical. But we have had some fun here too. I mean, it hasn't been all like awful. So we've had kids come and present to us as a board. I kind of miss that boardroom.
Yeah,
I do. It's a nice boardroom.
Yeah, that's no longer there. But I am Zilla May, one of our favorites. Zilla May Day. We declared it Zilla May Day. And,
right.
You know, I mean, these are things that, I mean, counties do proclamations and some of that stuff is kind of, you know, you think it's kind of corny and it's less important than what we really, you know, the big things we do. But, you know, for the citizens, it is important to acknowledge these things. And she was one of my favorites because was on the historical landmark advisory board for a long time and led that charge. It was really important. Keith and I went to the Salinity. We went out to Paradox.
Oh yeah.
And talked. You want to talk a little bit? We look like we're having more fun than I remember.
Yeah. In the West End, there's a salt dome in the Paradox Valley, under the Paradox Valley, which puts in some of the largest amounts of salt into the Colorado River system. And they traced it back to the Paradox Valley. So what they've done was pump some of that water down for that high salinity water
Easy for
back
you to
into
say.
these very, very deep well holes that they've drilled over 3,000 feet deep at high pressure to get rid of some of that salt out of the river system.
We're having
it was a great day. They showed us the pumping systems. They showed us some of the wells, and very informative. And talking about the paradox, along with that is Roger and I went over one time and looked at where a company out of Australia was doing drilling for uranium and vanadium. So what you do as a county commissioner is anything and everything. You can't guess what you're going to be doing the next day.
Yeah, we should have a big dartboard and with all the topics, and then we just, what are we dealing with today?
Well, it's like the picture of the bridge up there. That was a great project, that new bridge. The contractors did a great job on that. Working with Road and Bridge. Our Road and Bridge department is an amazing group of people. Anyway. It is. I'm very pleased to have them.
Yeah, and we've had a couple of foibles with our Road and Bridge, but I mean, again, when you're running, I think we have 350 employees. We have a lot of projects. We're trying to, and we have a growing community, so we have a lot of things going on. So, and then Roger and I got to go see some Centennial.
Centurions.
Yes. And, that was a wonderful day.
Yeah. So you look a lot younger.
I do.
I know.
Am I? I'm not quite as gray.
I guess so do I. So when we talk about legacy, it's hard to. It's really hard to talk about legacy. I never even thought of when being a county commissioner that there would be something you left behind, because I've talked to other commissioners, and so where they've put in place programs that were beneficial and helpful, and then the next board just abolishes them or something like that. So the notion of what you would want to have last. Tell me what you would want your in that piece to be, Roger.
Well, the easy answer is the infrastructure,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm an engineer. I like building stuff. The courthouse project is a lasting legacy. The HHS building that we're going to be starting soon will be another one. Airport, all the work that we've done out at the airport, and to see that thing grow. Those are legacy type items that can't be taken away. The ones that I really want to see stay, that are more susceptible, is like the core values of our staff and the board working with the staff and working with the different departments. We got 14 different departments, and we have a very good working relationship, and that would be the legacy that I want to see, because that's the reason I ran.
Yeah,
is I wanted to see that people like coming to work. They enjoy their jobs. There's movement. We have promoted people within.
Right.
That's a big thing to me.
Right. But it is I think you're right that, the buildings, the infrastructure, they'll be there. The courthouse had to be done, I mean, I'm glad we were part of that. The airport is something to be, it's a crown jewel. It's something to be very proud of. And our director out there is just awesome. And so those things are great. The new building hopefully will be the same way, but you're right. That lasting legacy is the people, because in change of leadership comes change of how people feel about their jobs. Sometimes there's fear. I think you experienced that prior to that. And so, what's your greatest hope for us going into the future? Because I'm still here.
Yes.
So I've got two more years.
Well, my greatest hope is we keep the relationships we've built over the years, and I'm talking from the national level, like the public lands group that I sit on. We've done a lot of good work at the national level, trying to, promote bills that will help the Montrose area, the county of Montrose, and Forest Service and the BLM in this region. There's a lot of bad players out there at the national level that want to do things to our wilderness and our public lands.
Right.
And I think the relationships, that's one of them from that area on down. I'm working with the city of Montrose. You can ruin those relationships in a matter of minutes if you don't take care of them.
Yep. And also then, the confidence that our staff has in our leadership. And I think that I've had them come up to me. I'm sure you have too. And they've said, thank you for, 8 peaceful years.
We've tried.
So I think that's really, that speaks to how I sort of liken it to, parents and children in some ways. When you have parents start having troubles, and it kind of rolls downhill. So I'm hopeful that we can move into the future and achieve some of the things that we were able to achieve together, because I think we did a lot of good stuff, and it's continuing now. So, but again, I said that being a county commissioner has a lot to do with policy. Really appreciate your work on the public lands, Keith. I mean, you were at a lot of meetings. You had to go to all the national conferences, CCI conferences, and you sat diligently on those calls. Roger and I were too, but you were the lead on those. CCI is our lobbying group, so you took a lead role in that, and not looking forward to listening to those.
Well, and it was necessary to protect our agriculture here in the valley. So many people rely on the Forest Service and the BLM for grazing permits.
Yeah, that
was one of the very first things I worked on the Clear County project, was the grazing permits in Montrose County on that whole project. And
so wait, let's talk about the legacy of our ag. I mean, I would like to do even more, but you've made a lot of great steps towards supporting ag during your term, and a couple of ways you did that. You want to talk a little about?
Well, what we did was we instituted a couple of scholarships for FFA students, graduating students that are going to go back into the ag business, helps their college. We also started buying steers at the San Miguel County Fair and the Montrose County Fair. And the reason we bought them at the San Miguel County Fair is about half the kids at that fair are from Montrose County. That's their fair also.
Right.
So Montrose really has 2 fairs, and people don't even realize that most of the time. But
yeah.
we try to support our agriculture, because it's a dying institution in the United States as a whole, and I really hate to see it go downhill in the Montrose County. It's sort of close to my heart too,
Yeah.
because my family, I was raised on a ranch. My family were ranchers before that, and they came into this valley as pioneers into the ranching business. So
Yeah, I think that it'd be nice to even do more in a more substantial way. So hopefully we come up with some ideas in the future that could help agriculture. Hate to see it go away. You know, it's why people move here. The open spaces, they love it. So yeah, it's really important. And Roger, you know, you've been on a lot of boards. You know, community corrections for one. I mean, that's an important board. You want to talk a little bit about that your role on that?
Well, I've been on the
organization?
Community Corrections Board from the very beginning and when I first got seated. And it's near and dear to me for someone who battled addiction in my own life and got a second chance. And that's what this program's about. And it keeps people out of our jails and prison sentences, and it's a deferment on some of these low-level crimes, but they're not quite ready for parole, or they're a little more than what parole would bring. They need a more structured system.
Right.
So we have a community corrections, Doug Kerrigan and ATC. Those guys run it down there out of our old work release building. And it's just a phenomenal program. It helps people get integrated back into the society.
Right.
And it's been near and dear to me. I was moved so much with the work that they do that I actually got on the state panel at the state level and served there as well. And we have done some really good stuff. And a lot of it goes back to that lobbying,
Right.
you know, getting our legislatures to understand how important these are, that these men and women can actually go back. They can, you know, they serve their time. They are required to get jobs. They have to pay their child support. They have to pay their restitution and serve their time at the same time. And when they come out, they actually, a lot of them have money in the bank to get back on their feet.
Right.
Because if you just throw someone out of prison into parole, they don't stand much of a chance.
Right. So, you know, so that was always part of your passion.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the two of you and all of us, actually, we sit on so many boards that, we have to mention Region 10 has been a great partner, and the cultivator out in Olathe with that we helped with that partnership. And so, you know, the partnerships make us stronger as a county, and we have really strong relationships with our tri-county partners and commissioners, Mesa, Delta, Montrose, you know, San Miguel, AG&C is a great partner. Yeah. So we have to continue to reach out and seek information so we can do things the best we can for our county. So if you were giving advice, if a new commissioner asked for your advice, what would you tell them as you're going out to enjoy your free time now? And God knows what you two will be doing roaming around. You'll probably get involved in something else, but
probably.
Because it's hard to go from 70 miles an hour to you won't be on any of those boards anymore. That things are going to change completely for you two. And Roger, you're going to be married, and it's going to change a lot for you too. Yes. But what advice would you give new commissioners coming in?
My advice would be listen to the staff, learn, be quiet about what you're doing. Don't try to be grandiose. But come in and try to learn as much as you can, because the whole idea is you're serving the people of the county of Montrose. And you're looking out for their welfare at the state, local, and national levels. I think that is so important. And if you're not listening, you're not learning.
Right.
And I think the first 6 months is it's a big learning curve. Find out your niches that you're going to fit into at the county and work from there. I think it's a very humbling experience if you allow it to be.
Yeah, that's great. I think it does take a long time to sort of figure out what you're supposed to do as a county commissioner.
It is.
You're like, wait, do I do that?
It's a tough job.
I have to sign that too. What else?
Yeah.
How about you, Roger?
Well, I think the biggest thing is one of the things I'm really proud about is this new board coming in. They won't have the chaos that we came into. You got a really good staff. You got really good legal people. And I'm with Keith. You got to listen to your staff and listen to your people, but you gotta verify too. You need to do the work. You need to understand what is going on, and it takes a lot of reading. People don't realize that we have these work sessions. We cover a lot of ground in those, and then not only after that, I read all the documents that go with those. And because I don't want to vote on something that I have not read and understand.
Yeah, there's a lot of homework.
There is a lot of homework, and I hope that they will do that and then ask the proper questions at the proper time and not alienate your people. And I think that's the biggest thing is you got to respect those people. Our directors are top notch. A lot of them have been here a long time. Like I said, we've promoted within. How many? I think we have one that was not promoted within, and so they know their business.
Right.
They've been doing this, and they've been doing a phenomenal job.
Yep.
And if the new board will come in and just take the time to learn, just take a breath. Don't try to make any major changes for 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
And just you're going to have plenty on your plate.
Yeah. Figure it out first. Figure it out.
Yeah. You've got CCI. You've got the state legislature. They're going to have national stuff coming down as far as NACO. I hope that they're involved in that because it is beneficial. Western Regional in the state, which is part of NACO, is probably even more important because then you're meeting with our Western neighbors statewide and you're learning about what's impacting them and a lot of our public lands and water and all those things. So I'm hope they are as involved as we have been.
I'm hopeful too. And you anytime there's a change, it's always a little stressful. But I sort of want to wrap this up and talk about the impact that you two have had on me because you come in and it can go south or it can go north.
That's true.
And I feel like that. I feel like we've navigated conflict well together and come out on the other side. And I think just working with people that have the right intentions, the right value system makes all the difference in the world. So for me, you've been great mentors. Keith did coerce me into running for office. I think I said no 3 times. And then finally you said, well, come on.
Well, I think it's important to have the correct people in the job. And I thought you would be a great candidate, and you have been a great candidate. You've been a great county commissioner, Sue.
Well, thanks. It's been the probably the more, I feel, and I do feel like you feel the same ways. This is an important job.
It is.
And it's probably more important than anything I've ever done. And if I'd been younger, maybe I would have, even started earlier. But for me, I just want you to know that you'll be missed. The staff will miss you. Again, people thanking you for the calm 8 years is a lot to what you two came in and were able to affect that change to make it more positive for people. And now people can enjoy where they work. They can enjoy who they work with. And of course, everything's not rosy all the 100% of the time. But I think one of the goals was to make Montrose a key employer of choice. I think under the leadership that's happened, and I think you've made a big difference, and I just don't want you to leave without knowing that I believe that you two made a big difference in the county.
Well, thank you.
So,
and one comment I had on this, one of the turning points, and it was you coming in, you changed so much of the dynamics around here that it was just amazing watching you go and do the things that you've done. And this is the hardest working commissioner in the state.
Agreed.
And anybody that wants to dispute that, they just don't know. Because I've watched you be involved in so many different programs, and nobody wanted to tackle HHS. That is a nightmare of statutes and regulations and stuff. And you jumped in there with both feet. Because we didn't know what to do.
You guys took all the other good boards.
I know.
It's true.
You did.
Oh, yeah, and Roger's right.
I love the human services.
I know, and we all love them, and we know it's such an important thing. But you got in there and really dug in and learned it.
Well, I appreciate that. Keith, what were you gonna say? I was doing a rap, and then you did a 180 on me here. So
I was gonna say, it's funny when I'm at like CCI meetings or talking. They'll say, well, how's Sue doing? I said, you can't keep up with her.
Yeah.
She's got something going on all the time. We appreciate your enthusiasm and your will to serve the people.
Might as well be here 100%, right?
Yeah.
Or 120% like you are.
Yeah. So I am going to wrap this time. Don't do it. Don't change it.
I'm going to.
Don't do it. I just I think that when someone gives 8 years of their lives and does the level of work and engagement that you've done, that you just need to know that it's not the plaques and it's not that the whatever. It's that you did a great job, and yeah, you're going to be missed. So thank you guys. I appreciate it. Thank you for joining us. I hope that I hope you learned something. Oh yeah, we have some fun. So
Yeah.
I love the mustache.
That's good.
So yeah. So we'll please join us for our next podcast. Who knows what it'll be, but just want to thank these commissioners for their service and their dedication to Montrose County. So we'll see you next time on County Talk.